In or about January 2025, Sharif pivoted yet again and now claimed on an interview with Asmongold is mentioned, on YouTube, who is a famous gamer with 4.44 million subscribers on YouTube, that he put in over $55 million of his own money into the development of the game.
If you put these points into context, look, I don't know what's going on with Narc. I don't know, why he's come to these conclusions that he has. I have assumptions. My assumptions are it's because this is the reason of him wanting to farm views and engagement or whatever, and then maybe he'll do a redemption arc later, and that's like his master plan. I have a lot of different commentaries, but it is what it is. I don't really care. Only thing I care about is that when someone makes false and defamatory statements and it gets 100,000 plus views, and then it gets 500,000 plus views, and it demeans the character of myself or the 230 plus families that I care that are putting their hearts and souls into this game, of which I've put over $55 million of my own money into the development of this game. There has never been a dime or profit that's been taken from this company in 8 years. When someone says that, it is utter, and pardon my French here, but
it's gonna piss you off.
It's complete fucking bullshit.
Yet another new lawsuit has hit the Ashes of Creation situation. There's a lot of lawsuits flying around. There are responses to lawsuits. There are amendments. There are other parties, of course, involved in whatever is happening to Intrepid Studios, whatever is happening between the investors and Stephen Sharif and his husband, John Moore. What's been shared with me since yesterday is actually Jason Caramanis' lawsuit, where he's basically suing Stephen to put it on the record that he is suing Stephen and Stephen is a liar, is what he's alleging here. So this is the stamped version of the lawsuit filing. What was sent to me yesterday, I believe, was the unapproved one. That the court hadn't processed yet. Well, as of today, it's been processed by the court. It was filed yesterday on March 3rd, 2026, as of the video. And there's also a judicial summons, of course, that accompanied the lawsuit. We'll also kind of talk a little bit about the Sharif response to the Nevada court filing by Robert Dawson and TFE Games Holdings. So this is going to be the lawsuit. It's 77 pages long, which includes the exhibits. I'll, of course, put some downloadable links either in the video description or in the Discord server for people to peruse. Okay, so this is filed on behalf of Jason Caramanis individually and as a trustee of the Yaya Legacy Trust as a plaintiff. So plaintiff versus Stephen Sharif, marked as an individual. His husband, John Moore, marked as an individual as well. Intrepid Studios, Inc., a Californian corporation. And we're going to kind of go through it. We may not go through all of it, but we'll go through the general allegations and the important exhibits that they show. I believe in the response to the Nevada filing, Stephen Sharif has remarked that they are currently, he and his husband are in Virginia. And a source of mine had told me that Stephen had mentioned a East Coast property. I don't know if that is going to be the property in question, which they're staying at. Maybe it's a rental, who knows. But yes, Stephen Sharif and John Moore are confirmed to have at least temporarily relocated to Virginia as of January, which is basically 2 months ago at this point, or almost 2 months ago on the timeline, and that they intend to return to San Diego near term. So here are the general allegations from Jason. I think anyone who's been keeping up with the lawsuits and everything kind of know the gist of it. Basically alleges that, hey, Jason Caramanis was an investor and lender to Intrepid Studios, that Stephen Sharif was at all relevant times, as is argued, the co-founder, CEO, and director, the primary point of contact who solicited and obtained plaintiffs' loans and investments. Sharif also personally guaranteed repayment of certain loans at issue, as will be described in the exhibits. Jason Caramanis' lawsuit also pulls in his husband, John Moore, Stephen's husband, John Moore, as an individual, and also as a co-founder and CFO of Intrepid, as well as the business partner and husband of Sharif. Basically, as a brief overview, it's going to be about, complaint for intentional misrepresentation, fraud, fraudulent concealment, aiding and abetting fraud, rescission for fraud, negligent misrepresentation. Moore and Sharif are believed to have paid themselves approximately $3 million or more in W-2 wages between the years 2021 to 2025. Plaintiffs were never made aware of this W-2 compensation for themselves. The lawsuit, of course, kind of goes over Jason's story again. Hey, we gave them money, and it seems they took a lot of that investment money for themselves for personal gain, potentially here. Plaintiffs also learned that based on a review of the Intrepid QuickBooks file, John Moore had received at least $9 million in undocumented transfers. This is a figure that has also popped up in the TFE Games Holding lawsuit, or something close to it, right? With labels such as shareholder loan, distributions, John Moore account 6009. I've also shared some details that I could share about this in a previous video where Jason sent me pictures of some of the accounting sheets, and I actually brought in an actual accountant to review these numbers. And I'm not going to talk too much about that because I haven't gotten the okay to share a lot of that information. But what I will say is, in the professional accountant's information that I brought in, there's a lot of red flags. There's a lot of weird details. So I'm just going to leave it at that. At least from what we could kind of see, because we didn't have everything in terms of what would be normal in situations like this. Sharif, beyond his W-2 wages discussed above, also took out over $600,000 in monies under categories such as shareholder loan. In essence, Sharif and Moore were treating plaintiffs' invested capital as a personal piggy bank. So, kind of similar to Steven's lawsuit here in California. Jason's lawsuit seems to have some flowery language as well at times. In or about late April 2023, in multiple phone conversations with Jason Caramanis and Robert Dawson, another major investor in Intrepid, as well as in emails with them, Sharif now kept mentioning that he invested an additional $4 million into Intrepid. So now they're alleging that in a conversation, in a three-way conversation with Jason and Robert Dawson, Sharif claimed that he had invested an additional $4 million on top of the original $10 million into Intrepid of his own money. This was understood by Caramanis to mean that this was $4 million on top of all the millions of dollars that Sharif had purportedly invested in prior years. In or about January 2025, Sharif pivoted yet again and now claimed on an interview with Asmongold is mentioned, on YouTube, who is a famous gamer with 4.44 million subscribers on YouTube, that he put in over $55 million of his own money into the development of the game. Yeah, I think there's a bunch of clips that people have collected since this whole thing blew up that show Steven saying, I put millions of dollars into it. I think when he was mad about the YouTuber Narc and threatening to legally sue Narc because he didn't like what you said about the game or whatever. I personally don't know the details of that much myself, but I think that's still crazy. You know, threatening to sue a YouTuber over comments made about your game. I mean, what is that? That I think was a pretty crazy red flag that I wish I would have known about. But here, you know, there's a specific clip, I think, where Asmongold is on the phone call with Steven, and Steven is being mad about Narc, and he mentions that it's bullshit, like, how dare you make these defamatory remarks? I'm well within my rights to sue Narc. I put $55 million of my own money, and there's 200 families that are working on this game, or 200 developers who have families that are working on this game. It's bullshit. Pardon my French, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure someone will dig up the clip.
If you put these points into context, look, I don't know what's going on with Narc. I don't know, why he's come to these conclusions that he has. I have assumptions. My assumptions are it's because this is the reason of him wanting to farm views and engagement or whatever, and then maybe he'll do a redemption arc later, and that's like his master plan. I have a lot of different commentaries, but it is what it is. I don't really care. Only thing I care about is that when someone makes false and defamatory statements and it gets 100,000 plus views, and then it gets 500,000 plus views, and it demeans the character of myself or the 230 plus families that I care that are putting their hearts and souls into this game, of which I put over $55 million of my own money into the development of this game. There has never been a dime or profit that's been taken from this company in 8 years. When someone says that, it is utter, and pardon my French here, but
it's going to piss you off.
It's complete fucking bullshit.
He further added in the Asmongold interview that there was never a dime or a profit taken from the company in 8 years. The interview is available at the following link. The portion quoted herein is found at approximately the 2 hour and 32 mark. They even link it. That's so funny. However, plaintiffs discovered in early 2026, once they received access to the complete and detailed financials based on the QuickBooks file, it does not appear that Sharif invested any money into Intrepid. Only then did plaintiffs see the extensive insider payments and mismanagement that had been concealed. Plaintiffs learned to their shock that Sharif had never lost everything on the project as he had claimed. Instead, he had paid himself and his husband Moore, also the CFO of Intrepid, extravagantly from investor funds while claiming to be financially invested. By early 2026, Intrepid Studios collapsed under the weight of its financial improprieties and ability to raise further capital once the truth emerged. The game Ashes of Creation was pulled from release, Steam, and Intrepid shut down operations with all employees laid off. As a direct result of defendants' conduct, plaintiffs have suffered substantial harm. This is Jason we're talking about. Jason provided $12.3 million in funding to Intrepid over several years, including the loans evidenced by Exhibits A through H and additional contributions to bail out the company, relying on defendants' representations in good faith. This is going to be the prayer for judgment. Wherefore, Jason prays for judgment against Stephen Sharif, John Moore, Intrepid as follows: for general damages in the amount of at least $12.3 million, for punitive and exemplary damages, for restitutionary damages in an amount to be proven at trial, for rescission of the loan agreements outlined above, for special and consequential damages in the sum according to proof at the time of trial, for interest according to law in the agreements between the parties, for reasonable attorney's fees pursuant to the agreements between the parties, for such other and further relief as this court deems just and proper, dated March 2nd, filed March 3rd, approved on March 4th. Exhibit A is the February 17 note. And this is, I think, one of the documents that we had shared previously. Exhibit B is the pledge and security agreement that we had covered in the first video, kind of breaking news. So you can read through the entire thing yourself now. As this is all now in public domain. There's also a judicial summons, as I mentioned previously, where this has been issued to Stephen Sharif that, hey, you're being sued. You need to respond within 30 days. And then we keep going. Exhibit C is another promissory note. Again, that's Stephen's signatures. And this is another thing that I think we briefly showed this in the first video in terms of the payment schedule and the equity conversions. Exhibit D is the March 2019 note. And also receipt, right? Because he wired in the first video, he showed me pictures of the wire receipts and everything. So here's more proof of that as to what happened with the millions of dollars that he wired to Stephen Sharif's Intrepid checking account. Exhibit E is going to be the March 19th PSA, and then we're going to keep going. There's mostly from the lawsuit itself, in terms of like outlining what's going on, what they want, what happened, is about maybe 30 to 40 pages at most. Everything else after that, up to 77 pages, is exhibits. Just kind of proof after proof of the allegations that Jason's trying to point out here. August 2019 promissory note for another loan, right? Actually, a couple of these I don't think I've seen before either, because I got to see a list of them. I got to see a few of them, but I didn't see all of them like closely. So this is also kind of a little bit new to me, but I'm aware of the existence of most of these. I think a couple of these I'm not aware of. So here we go. We got the January 2020 promissory note. Again, more agreements. I believe this is going to be the Mr. T. And I'm just sharing this information now because it's public now. Right, this is going to be the part in the first video where we talked about Jason bringing in somebody he knew called Mr. T, and here it's listed as Travis Bott. That, hey, I'm bringing another investor in. That investor put in $1 million or something like that, and then Stephen couldn't pay him back purportedly, and then Jason had to basically liquidate his crypto to basically cover that $1 million to give to Mr. T so that he was satisfied on the debt and backed out of the project. So that it's interesting that this is also being put in the public filing. Exhibit H is a March 2025 promissory note for Intrepid Studios for the amount of $2 million. And this is a pretty recent one. I think this had to do with the some of the loans that they had given to Steven to cover his house or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's so much more technical and specific than all the bullshit from Steven. I mean, I think a very, big key difference, and we had consulted lawyers, including the lawyer YouTuber Legal Mindset about this, right? I think a big key difference that I'm personally seeing between Jason's lawsuit and Steven's lawsuit is Steven's lawsuit didn't really have, again, correct me if I'm wrong, any exhibits like this. I mean, there's a lot of exhibits here, all right? We're up to Exhibit H. We just have a lot of broad and oddly specific allegations from Steven's lawsuit, which should be taken seriously, in my opinion. If, as any allegation should be taken seriously in terms of like, hey, I got threatened. There was coercion. I had health issues, which I think was like 5th on the list. So there were a lot of allegations, but here there's also allegations, but the allegations are much more specific and narrow. Plus, you have a bunch of exhibits. You have a bunch of documents that are being submitted to the court as proof of the allegations that Jason's lawyer is willing to provide to the court. Right. So I think that is a very, very big key difference that I'm personally noticing here between the two lawsuits so far. And again, more signatures, more promissory notes. Interestingly, there is going to be Exhibit I. It's going to be a 2019 email, right? From I think this between Jason and Steven, and this is about the cap table, I believe. I've attached the investor document. We'll get you cap table shortly as well. Can we get a shareholders agreement cap table for the company? Steven alleges that he had invested 9.5 million, almost $9.6 million, let's say, and that the equity he owns as a result of that investment should be or is 93.40% of the company. Meanwhile, Yaya Legacy Trust, or Jason, has 44 preferred stock shares because they contributed $2,205,000 for a 4.40% equity share. And then there's a Thomas and Bethany Alcazan, where they have 22 preferred stock shares as a result of $2 million investments for a 2.20% equity share. So this was 2019, or what was being claimed in 2019. So that's also pretty interesting to see as a additional detail. Now, going back to the Nevada lawsuit, kind of mentioned that Steven and his husband are apparently in Virginia or on the East Coast or somewhere while all this is taking place, right? They did a little bit of a counter response to TFE Games Holdings, arguing that, hey, this lawsuit that TFE Games Holdings filed should not even be in Nevada or in Nevada court. We already have a lawsuit or case going in a Southern California court, federal court, as Steven has claimed as well on our live stream chat, right? And this kind of reiterates Steven's side, saying that, hey, we've been wronged. We need to, solve this in a different court. The matter is before the court because Dawson used his position as principal lender, majority shareholder, and chairman to squeeze Sharif out of governance of the company he founded, and is now attempting to wrest control and ownership of the IP and trade secrets and so on. He also alleges that as the coup de grace, TFE now seeks a mandatory preliminary injunction compelling Sharif, a Californian resident, not a Nevada resident, to surrender control over the alleged company records, including usernames and passwords for dozens of financial institutions and SaaS platforms. I think that's kind of alluding to, Discord as well, because people keep asking, is Discord included? Is the Discord server included? Yeah, of course it's included. So this is Steven's response to the restraining order on the assets. And they're basically saying, hey, we should take this to California. And there's a whole bunch of arguments. There's also some things that I've been made aware of, as I keep mentioning, that I am unable to share at this moment, which adds a bit more context to what may have happened. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in Discovery, what happens, like how is Steven going to respond to Jason's lawsuit? It'll be interesting. But, there's a lot of things mired right now in all these lawsuits. And again, I'm hoping that they figure something out soon, at least for the employees, right? Tomb says, I feel sorry for the employees unless California steps in and pays the missing wages and such. Then who ends up paying? Right, exactly. I think that's a very key thing that people are losing sight of during all this. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting and whatever, drama, legal tube. There's lawsuits are being exchanged, responses are being made, speculations being fueled by some of the things in the lawsuits. But at the end of all this, right, I mean, I'm personally hoping that maybe somewhere in the middle of all this, we can see compensation go out to the employees. I've been seeing a lot of interesting comments on the employee video about how, the employees are financially illiterate. How could you be, living out of your car or whatever? But like more details that surfaced that we talked about on the live streams after that video and stuff from even more employees who had reached out to me, it's very clear that, at least from what they're claiming, what more employees are claiming is not everybody got six figures. In fact, it's kind of it doesn't seem like most people or even anyone got paid six figures or whatever. And a lot of people who relied on that wage was making maybe like 60, 70, 80 at most. And that's before taxes, right? And it's not like you're getting lump sums at the start of a year, at the start of a month to, for your paycheck. So I think a lot of people are either not American or not Californian, or at least have never gone to San Diego. But also I think a lot of people are also assuming that they got paid the bonuses and stuff that a couple of the employees had shared with me. I think there was a chart in the video, like how can you, be so bad at managing finances? I think it's just a result of, at least, 130 of them are in California. I think as a result, missed payroll, and at that low of a wage, I think it's totally expected that some of them are going to be, at least some of them, right, are going to be struggling financially. Of, Steven scamming his older brother Tim with the merchandise that is now being sold by his brother in an attempt to recoup losses from the scam. I don't know. That's Jason's allegation, and it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see whether we see that pop up in the San Diego lawsuit here, or in the TFE Games Holding lawsuit in Nevada or somewhere.